First of all, I want to thank everybody at Ave Maria University for this extraordinary honor. I'm deeply, deeply appreciative of it and very, very proud to be with all of you today. I would like to congratulate the class of 2009 for all of their academic activities coming to, at least for some of you, I'm sure, a conclusion. Others will go on. I want to wish a happy Mother's Day a day early for all of the mothers in the audience. And tell you, I think, something that Father Pavone may have said yesterday, that commencement really means that this is the first day of the rest of your life. And you are now equipped to do things that you weren't able to do before, and you will go forth, we hope, and confront the society. As I was thinking about giving this presentation, it drew me back to when I was graduating from university, from college. And it drew me back to the commencement speaker that we had, and this was at St. John's University in Collegeville, Minnesota. Our commencement speaker was Father Hans Kung. Most of you in the audience may not know who that is, but Father Hans Kung in 1965 was a young German Catholic priest that everybody thought was the rising star in Catholic theology, promoted by the Benedictines as being an incredible opportunity to speak to the graduates. I don't know if they knew then, but I have a suspicion they may have. But he came to be a Catholic theologian who was brought into disgrace, if you will, by the Vatican. He questioned the resurrection. He promoted homosexuality. He promoted contraception, abortion. He was anything but a Catholic, much less a Catholic theologian. And yet that was 40-some years ago, and this idea that we have ill-tempered, if you will, commencement speakers is not new, but it brings me to the modern day at the University of Notre Dame, where we have a modern-day Hans Kung who will be giving their commencement address next week. That's President Barack Obama, and I'm sure there's a few people in the audience who may have voted for him, but I will tell you that it has created, as you know, a lot of controversy. Hundreds of thousands of people have signed petitions. 68 bishops have asked them to pull back the invitation. Marianne Glendon has refused to receive their top honor. It's an extraordinary series of events that's going on right now. And you may wonder, why is all the attention being given to that? And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, so I won't worry you about that. But President Obama is somebody that I would call is viciously pro-abortion. Now, just so that I'm not misunderstood, what I mean by that is not somebody who, out of ignorance or perhaps wanting to follow the trend, is in favor of abortion. But I'm talking about an individual who, when he was an Illinois state legislator, voted against a law that would mandate that babies born alive from abortion would be given medical care. This is an individual who voted in favor of partial birth abortion. This is a person who told Planned Parenthood, as one of his first steps, he would vote into law the Freedom of Choice Act. He hasn't done that yet, but it looks like he's going to do this in piecemeal. He rescinded the Mexico City policy, which is a policy enacted in the Reagan administration to withhold all American funds, United States funds, to the promotion of abortion and contraception in developing countries. Regardless of one's position on abortion or contraception, I will tell you that that's a very bad foreign policy to have. I've been in some of these countries, and I will tell you that they are very angry at the United States, not because of the things you hear on television all the time, but because of this policy of forcing abortion to their people. He's already made available embryonic stem cell research funds. And most recently, he's in the process of taking away the conscience protection to healthcare providers and physicians who may not wish to do abortions or prescribe contraceptives or do sterilizations or participate in vitro fertilization procedures. I am one of those doctors whose conscience protection may be removed. I am in the crosshairs of the Obama administration. It points out, perhaps more than anything else, one of the major, if not the most major conflict that we see currently is the culture of life versus the culture of death. I've been involved in this personally for a long time. And I thought probably when I got started in all of this, we'd get it resolved in a few years. It obviously hasn't been resolved, and it's going to perhaps take several generations longer. Nobody can put a timetable on it. But you're going to be in that group of people who will, praise the Lord, have the opportunity to be a part of the development of a culture of life. And as you do that, I'd like to point out just 3 little examples of how the church oftentimes is way ahead of its time. Back in 1968, when Humanae Vitae was written, the papal birth control encyclical, which Pope Paul VI wrote, people were all up in arms. They dissented. They said he was a pope that was out of touch with this and that and all the other things. But now we see Humanae Vitae as prophetic. We live in a pandemic, a word recently used a lot, a pandemic of family violence. Divorce rates are high, child abuse is on the increase, children affected by divorce are on an increase. Out-of-wedlock pregnancies, which Planned Parenthood told us we would solve that problem, is 7 times higher today than it was 45 years ago. Sexually transmitted disease or epidemic. And just as a little side note, as an obstetrician, premature birth has doubled in the last 40 years. It was 6.7%, now it's almost 13%. A baby born prematurely is a baby who is at high risk for cerebral palsy, cognitive, developmental abnormalities, motor abnormalities. It is, in a way, if it can be prevented, and without going into detail, I'll tell you it can be prevented. It is a part of one's existence that is like being abused. And yet it gets very little publicity. Not too many people talk about it. The March of Dimes set a goal for the year 2010, which is next year, to drop that down to 7%. And ever since they set the goal, it has increased each year, and it doesn't appear to be stopping. So indeed, when Pope Paul VI wrote that encyclical letter, he was able to look into the future and predict. And people thought he was crazy. I mean, really, people thought he was crazy, and yet he was so much ahead of where everybody else was at the time. It gives you faith in the church that we believe in. Not long ago, Dr. Karl Gerasi, who was an Austrian chemist, he happened to be the person who discovered one of the main ingredients of the birth control pill.